Welcome to Purl in the Pines Knit Tips. Techniques to coordinate with our exclusive Purl in the Pines knit kits, all based on Mother of Pearl designs. My name is Susan Chastain. I am the designer of the Mother of Pearl pattern line. Today is our fourth video, and we're going to talk about how to adjust your long tail cast on when you're knitting a shawl from the bottom up, or any other project that needs to have blocking done at the bottom. For instance, a project with scallops on the edge, like maybe an afghan or a sweater, but primarily shawls knit from the bottom up. We have two examples here on the table: the Tri-Color Shawl, which also works as a prayer shawl, and a large triangle beaded shawl, which is a more complicated project. In both of these, you're starting with a lot of stitches at the bottom of your project and then decreasing and working your way up. For years, many people have been told that in order to make sure that their cast on edge is loose enough, to just cast on with a bigger needle. In this circumstance, that really doesn't work, because casting on with a bigger needle means that the loops on the needle are bigger, but it's the line of yarn that's under the needle that's the reason why things don't block out properly, because that line can be too tight. So I'm going to demonstrate today how to adjust that long tail cast on in both American and Continental style knitting, so that you have the ability to have a nice loose edge. So when you have something like the shawl here with points, or the shawl here with scallops, you've got something that will easily block out and give you a beautiful finished edge. I'm going to start with the demonstration of American style long tail cast on. And you'll see as we do this that the stitches on the needle are not bad, not tight, but the loops underneath are firm, and that's going to be what's going to cause this to not block out properly. So if I'm doing a shawl like the ones on the table here, what we want to do is, when you're getting ready to tighten the stitch, you're going to get your thumb and your forefinger between the stitches, so that when you tighten them up, you've got space between the stitches. So the stitch on the needle will actually be just like it was before, but you're getting a lot more distance underneath the needle, which is the tricky part. I'm doing a demonstration right now that allows this to be pretty far apart. If you're doing something like the feather and fan edging on the green shawl, you don't need to be quite this far apart, but if you're doing the beaded shawl, you really need that much distance in order for those scallops to block, those points to block out correctly. So again, we're going to get our thumb and our forefinger between the stitches while we're tightening, so that we get lots and lots of distance. And you're going to say as you do this, "But that looks sloppy, it looks terrible." It'll look funny while you're knitting your project, but you will be so happy when you're blocking it out. So don't worry about the fact that it's going to look loose, because in the end result, you're going to like it much better. So you can see how much farther apart those stitches are than the ones that are at the beginning of the needle. So Continental knitting, or if you're using the half hitch cast on with just your left hand, as Continental knitters and some American knitters use, you'll see again you've got the tighter stitches at the beginning. So as I'm getting ready to tighten, I'm going to get my thumb and my forefinger in between. So I'm not going to, it's pulling on the thread that goes over your thumb that is the one that's going to make the edge on the bottom, so that you need to get your fingers in the way before you pull on the yarn that's over your thumb. And again, it's going to look quite loose. That's okay. Stitch on the needle doesn't need to be loose. It's the part underneath that you want to stretch out. So, and you can see you've got more distance here between the stitches. If you know how to do both versions of the long tail cast on, I think the American one you have a little bit more control over in doing this technique, but either one works very well. And again, you can see you've got more distance than you do with the stitches at the beginning of the needle. Here we have kits for the Tri-Color Prayer Shawl, which is done with Ultra Alpaca by Barocco. You're going to be getting 2 skeins each of 3 different colors. The shawl is knit on about a size 10 needle with about an 11 for the feather and fan, because that tends to pull in as a pattern stitch. So you're getting a very nice drapey fabric. All of the pattern stitches in this shawl are easy lace patterns. So if you haven't done a lot of lace before, this is a great option for you. And because you're on a bigger needle, you don't have quite as many stitches, so it goes a little bit quicker. You also have the advantage of the fact that since you're starting with a lot of stitches and then reducing, it gets faster and faster as you go instead of longer and longer, which the top-down shawls do. So we have lots of great color options for you on this one. When we get to the beaded shawl, this particular shawl is done with sock yarn, about 1,050 yards of sock weight, fingering weight yarn. And it's a more complicated project. It's done with size 8 needles, and then you need several tubes or grams of beads to go with it if you choose to bead the shawl.